Hi there. Hello. Thank you so much for viewing this final project. This is a video I've put together for a communication class here at the Falls for spring quarter. This is in consideration again for the final project that we're working on. This goes hand in hand with a paper that was submitted yesterday. And this is just really a short video to go over my case and the theories that I chose to relate back to my case in depth. So I'll keep this video short. Like I said, I do appreciate your time. First, I'm going to start with an introduction to my case so that you'll be familiar with what I'm talking about. Then I'd like to touch on the topic that I chose from the text that we covered the quarter. And I'm going to relate that back to my case and let you know how that helped me see my case a little bit more clearly. And then finally, I'll wrap up the video with a short conclusion. And of course, no video would be complete if I didn't give my opinion on the case overall. So I'll definitely add that at the end. And I just want to say thank you again for using this assignment as consideration for my final project. So with that, we will get started with my case given. Just a little overview of my case to give you an idea of what's going on. This case is definitely about two friends. They were consultants. They worked at the same business together. And after a client suggested that they start their own business, they opened up their own company. I think it's worth noting that the case itself didn't note that they didn't have a plan, but I noted that they kind of just jumped right into business together without a plan. They didn't really even communicate about any shared goals that they may have had. And if they did do that communicating, it wasn't noted in the case. So it just really noted that they started working. They had very long hours. The work was very rewarding though. And their personal lives really seemed to gel with each other, which was great. They made a lot of money, which is always great. It's a good goal for a lot of people. They were able to hire a third employee. Her name was Colleen, which I think she'll come into play near the end of the story here. And I also think it's worth noting that it said that the girls did quite a few things together outside of work, that their families blended and their weekend activities a lot of times were with each other. So after time, I believe that one partner felt like she could start taking a little bit more time off, which made the other partner feel a little overworked and possibly underappreciated. Again, nobody really communicated about the changes that were taking place or that did take place when the third person was hired. So after a few miscommunications here, one of the partners announced she was ready for a split. Once she announced that she was ready for a split, the communication really broke down completely. It was noted in the case that the girls talked very little, if at all, and when they did speak to each other, it was probably one-word sentences, so it was very brief. It sounds like it was pretty cold and tense in the office. They worked together to separate their assets in the business, and the gal who kept the business was still deciding whether to keep the name and pay out the gal who wanted to leave the business, or if she wanted to continue to run the business alone and keep the name. So that is pretty much an overview of the case that I got. I was pretty happy with the case I got. I feel like this is a pretty real life situation. So I chose to apply leadership in this case. I think from the very beginning when they decided to go into business together, whether it was a snap decision or whether they decided to do it together, the case noted that they decided to open a business because a client simply mentioned that they should go into business together. Regardless of how you come up with the idea, I feel like both ladies lacked the leadership and the management needed to hold themselves to a little bit higher standards. I feel like some probably difficult communication was necessary here. They probably needed to put a plan in place, a business plan in place. Definitely a what if nothing else, a business plan, and really just go over some common goals. Like I said, it wasn't mentioned in the case if the ladies did speak about that, but I think that a business plan would have really changed things here. The second aspect of this is obviously it requires a little bit of maturity that a leader would bring to the table. And I think that's how leadership really helped me see the case a little clearer from that point of view at the beginning of the case. Both the ladies would have benefited from a little bit of leadership also in talking about difficult things when it came to the third person being hired. The two gals named Nellie. She was the gal who ended up taking a little bit of time off, and Ava was the second gal. I think that if they would have spoke to each other about a little clearer boundaries, they would have had a little happier resolution in the end. So at the end, both ladies stepped up, showed a little bit of leadership and management qualities when the third employee announced she was going to leave the company. And they worked together to make sure that that gal didn't take any clients. So the ladies had the leadership qualities in them when they could partner together for the business's sake. So the subtopics I decided to talk about were group communication, ethics, diversity, and crisis communication. I feel like group communication was a little difficult because there were only two ladies, a third brought in. So there wasn't a huge role that group communication played. It definitely was still present. Diversity, not a huge role. I feel like the ladies were alike. Maybe if they weren't so much alike, they wouldn't have monopolized each other's time and gotten sick of each other so quickly. But ethics, in this case, the company was ethical, so I think that that was really great. And crisis communication, I think that this shows you how important crisis communication is, because things can break down extremely fast. So in closing, I just want to say that who knows that the tiny bit of leadership, if we would have sought more from that from both ladies, if that would have prolonged the life of this business, or if not. Some companies fail, some succeed, regardless of leadership or management. However, I think that if you have strong leadership qualities, you definitely give yourself a much better shot at success. I think it helps you plan accordingly and integrate that into your daily business life, which is definitely an important part. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening to my speech here in the video. And thank you so much for the consideration into this final paper, and have a great day.